Simple binary acids have a single nonmetal with hydrogen. Oxyacids are based off of oxyanions. Remember, oxyanions have a single nonmetal bonded to some oxygens. In the oxyacid, there would be enough H pluses to balance out the charge of the oxyanion. To go from the formula to the name, we would first need to identify the name of the oxyanion. For example, HNO3 contains nitrate. Once we identify the oxyanion, all we do is change the ending based on two rules. If the end of the oxyanion is ATE, change the ate to ic acid. For example, the acid based on nitrate is nitric acid. If the end of the polyatomic ion is ITE, change the ite to OUS acid. For example, the acid based off of nitrite is nitrous acid. If the oxyanion contains a prefix, keep the prefix. For example, the acid based on hypochlorite would be hypochlorous acid. Do not confuse hypo and hydro. Hypo is a prefix indicating a smaller number of oxygens and is used in oxyanions and oxyacids. Hydro is only used in simple binary acids which do not contain oxygen. What is the name of H2CO3? Is it A, hydrocarbonic acid, B, carbonate, C, chloric acid, or D, carbonic acid? The correct answer is D, carbonic acid. First, we recognize that this is an oxyacid. It contains hydrogen on the left and an oxyanion on the right. The oxyanion is carbonate. We change the ending from ate to ic acid, so the acid must be carbonic acid. Remember, leave the beginning of the oxyanion alone. If it has a prefix, include it. Do not add any additional prefixes like hydro onto it. To go from the name to the formula, we reverse our naming rules. If the acid ends in ic acid, the polyatomic ion it contains must end in ate. If the acid ends in us acid, the polyatomic ion it contains must end in ite. For example, if we are given the name hypobromous acid, it must have hydrogens plus the hypobromite ion. Once you know the name of the polyatomic ion, you need to figure out its formula. I wouldn't necessarily have hypobromite memorized, but I could figure it out if I know the bromate ion. The oxyanions based on bromine are not explicitly listed in our textbook or lecture slides, but they follow the same pattern as the fluorine family. Go back and watch the video I linked to in 3.7 about using the periodic table to figure out the names and formulas of oxyanions. If I know bromate has 3 oxygens and a -1 charge, I know hypobromite must have 2 fewer oxygens and the same charge, so it must have 1 oxygen and a -1 charge. Finally, to complete the acid, we would add enough +1 hydrogens to make the neutral acid. Since hypobromite has a -1 charge, hypobromous acid must have 1 hydrogen. What is the formula of nitrous acid? Is it A, HNO4 aqueous, B, HNO3 aqueous, C, HNO2 aqueous, or D, H3N aqueous? The correct answer is C, HNO2 aqueous. Nitrous acid has the OUS acid ending, so it must contain the nitrite ion. If nitrate is NO3 - 1, the nitrite must be NO2 - 1. Because of the charge on the anion, I need 1 hydrogen to balance it out, so the answer is HNO2. Here's a summary of how we name acids. They can be either simple binary acids or oxyacids. For the simple binary acids, we use hydro-something-ic acid for the name. For example, HCl is hydrochloric acid. For the oxyacids, we have two rules based on the ending of the polyatomic ion. If the oxyanion ends in ate, change the ending to ic acid. For example, the acid based on phosphate is phosphoric acid. If the oxyanion ends in ite, change the ending to OUS acid. For example, the acid based on sulfite is sulfurous acid.